This summer, America marked its 250th birthday. And I don't know about you, but it seems all the hype leading up to it was bigger than the celebration itself. Sure, the Boston Pops added a cool drone show to its fireworks spectacular. But year after year, we rehash the same old stories. Tea dumped into the Boston Harbor, Paul Revere's midnight ride, the Declaration of Independence, hypocrisy and all. It's our history, so of course these stories must live on. But 250 years later, we know some stories are still left out. At the time of the Revolution, about 10% of Boston's population was Black. Many were enslaved, but there were around 800 free people of color who worked in maritime trades, skilled crafts, and general labor. In 1783, Massachusetts became the first state to effectively abolish slavery. This struggle was undeniably connected to the Revolution because, hello, how could the colonists be fighting for the very freedom that they were denying Black Americans? Abolitionists were paying attention and used those revolutionary ideals to call out the hypocrisy. Plus, Black Bostonians were on the battlegrounds too, and this is something we explored last season on Rooted. For example, Crispus Attucks was the first casualty of the American Revolution, sparking the fight for independence. Black soldiers would go on to serve on the front lines, fighting in pivotal battles such as Lexington and Concord and Bunker Hill, even while they were still enslaved. Not only did they serve as soldiers, but also as sailors, spies, cooks, and laborers. By the end of the war, an estimated 5,000 to 8,000 Black men had served, but their role is still too often overlooked. So today, we're unearthing some news stories. I recently teamed up with the Loop Lab to produce a series called Chains to Change, which explores historic sites across Boston that preserve the stories of these revolutionaries and the communities they helped build. And you are seeing it first. I'm Paris Alston, and this is Rooted. We use monuments to tell stories and signify importance. Boston Common, which is America's oldest park, is home to many of them. But what many folks may not know is that Boston Common used to be a sundown park. That's right, in the early 1700s, Black and Indigenous people were banned from being on the Common after sunset. Today, we can move around there freely, be it having festivals and rallies or monuments to our existence and contributions. We head there first to meet up with Amari Parris-Jeffries, who's the president and CEO of Embrace Boston.
Not everyone's founding story, and that's the magic of America, started in 1776. Monuments tell stories whether you hear them or not. So what are the monument stories of Boston and Massachusetts saying about our culture?
Today we're on Beacon Hill, which most people know for its wealth, the beautiful homes, the cobblestone streets. But there's a part of the story that's missing.
What these men were able to accomplish, nobody gave it to them.
We have no right to hide these stories. They need to know the full story of Boston.
Knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you do.
Every city tells a story about itself. Those stories live in the monuments we build, the places we preserve, and the histories we choose to remember. Today, we'll visit the Robert Gould Shaw and Massachusetts 54th Regiment Memorial, as well as the Embrace, to explore how public memory helps connect us to Boston's Black history and the people who helped shape this city and the nation. We're here with Amari Parris-Jeffries, who is the president and CEO of Embrace. We're at the Shaw 54th Memorial on Boston Common. Amari, it's always such a pleasure to see you.
It's always a pleasure.
Tell us what this memorial is.
Shortly after the Emancipation Proclamation, there were two Black regiments. Kansas was the first, Massachusetts 54th was the second. So this monument was a monument to honor their legacy. When people think about the Embrace Monument and they think about all the excitement and in some cases the controversy, they forget that the Shaw 54th Monument was controversial when it came out. When the Civil War was happening, the idea of Black soldiers fighting during the Civil War, that was controversial. The idea of paying those soldiers the same pay as white soldiers. And then Frederick Douglass, fought to get Black soldiers for the right to fight in the Civil War in the first place. framed in marble with a white person and 16 clear-faced black people with guns in front of our state house. Like, that was controversial during the time, an integrated monument blocking the view of a park named Liberty Park, framed by 2 trees that were planted by John Hancock. People were upset about that. And so this was a monument that they chose to put in front of our state house to represent the sacrifices that these soldiers, that these men made.
Is this in so many ways reminding people who are here now and people who come to visit of Black Boston's history?
It has to. It's a reminder that we are here, that this is our city, and that people who are from here of different cultures belong here. And so when we visit the Embrace, you're going to see a lot of things on the Embrace that are representative of Boston's diverse culture.
Amari, can you talk a little bit about the design of this monument? What were the architects of this trying to convey?
So Augustus St. Gaudens used real models because he intentionally wanted to accentuate the features. He did not want them to be in the background. He knew the significance of this over the history of time, and we are so grateful of his contribution. If he could be here now, he would probably see the Embrace and understand the significance and the relationship. He would be kin to Hank Willis Thomas.
Well, let's go take a look.
All right.
So here we are. Wow.
And so the Embrace is 2 stories high, it's 19 tons, but it's accessible, and we designed it that way. The plaza of the Embrace is made to look like a quilt. Quilts were the only thing that enslaved people were allowed to own. Embedded within those quilts were maps. And those maps were maps to the Underground Railroad, to freedom. The lights of the Embrace, the uplights, are supposed to represent the Northern Lights that represent a pathway to Beacon Hill, where it was a location to the Underground Railroad. And there are 70 plaques, 69 names of people who fought in the civil rights movement from the 50s, 60s, and up to 1975, because we wanted to represent that Boston had its own civil rights movement, and the monument itself was an image of Martin and Coretta embracing the moment that they found out that he had won the Nobel Prize.
And how do you feel when you see people walking underneath it and interacting with it in this way?
It just, I can't believe I was a part of it. And we're watching people
Doing
take
their
family
own
pictures,
Embrace.
doing their own Embrace inside of the Embrace, and they're in the middle of the Embrace. There's so many different cultures of Boston, so many American stories of Boston who were freedom fighters that are represented on the plaza and on the Embrace. On the top is 2 Irish love knots. It's an homage to Boston's Irish community. This is a multicultural American story. And, monuments are places of memory, and they tell stories and they pass on stories. We were hoping that we would be able to create a place in the center of America's oldest park. And there were times where Boston Common was a sundown park for Black folks. Black folks weren't allowed in Boston Common. Different parks and different communities were not allowed inside of America's oldest public park at different times of this country's history. And as we celebrate this 250 and we think about the next 250 years, what does it mean to celebrate this country's semi-quincentennial in a moment where there's so much division and hate? What does it mean to embrace?
Steps away from Boston Common is the iconic Beacon Hill neighborhood. Between the cobblestone streets and red brick row houses is a whole lot of history and a whole lot of money. Real estate websites put the neighborhood's average home price at around $2 million. That's a stark contrast to the average home price in the historically black Roxbury neighborhood, which is about $640,000. Now, this comparison matters because once upon a time, Beacon Hill was a hub of abolition as well as black wealth. We head there to meet up with Nicole Obie of the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts and Dr. Joyce Hope Scott, who teaches African American and Black diaspora studies at Boston University. We're here on Beacon Hill, which many people associate with wealth, history, gorgeous homes, amazing cobblestone streets. But it also helped lay the groundwork for modern economic equity in the city of Boston. And we're here with Nicole Obie, who is the president and CEO of the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, also known as BECMA, to talk more about that. Hello, Nicole.
Hello there. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us. So, Joyce, first help us understand why there's more to Beacon Hill than meets the eye.
Okay, well, what we see today is exactly what you said. It's a beautiful place. However, it was the Black community. It was absolutely the wealthy Black community in the days of the Revolution and shortly thereafter for quite a while. The forefront of the civil rights movement, not just here in Massachusetts, but in the entire country. We're talking about the middle of the 17th century, before the nation was even founded, where Beacon Hill begins to get set up as a coveted place, let's say, for Black people to come to. So some of the homes that are there represent that. In fact, owning a home, it meant everything to have a place to organize, to not just to live individually with one's family, but also to organize for the broader and the greater good of the Black community.
Now, I want to talk about two of those people, George Middleton and John Coburn, who had homes and businesses in Beacon Hill, and their homes are still there today. What was their influence in that?
Absolutely. Well, George Middleton was one of the first people to build a home there. Interestingly, in 1787, I marked the year because that's the year of the American Continental Congress. It was going on in Constitutional Congress was happening in Philadelphia during the same year. That's when he built his home, which is still standing today, actually. George Middleton, of course, had been the leader of one of the only Black militia during the Revolutionary War, the Bucks of America, and essentially they had their own flag and everything. So they were well recognized. So he essentially was a war hero. Colonel from the Revolutionary War, and became a lifelong activist in the community. He helped found the African Society, which was a philanthropic organization that helped widows and children find job placements, things that you think that happen only today. And of course, always being at the forefront of the Underground Railroad movement of people escaping slavery. George Middleton was at the forefront of that. So the leader that he was in the Revolutionary War, he continued to be that leader in the community.
But John Coburn, for instance, didn't fit quite a clean narrative. Why is that?
Well, Mr. Coburn, John Coburn, was an interesting person. What we think about as leadership, Black leadership, he complicated that a bit. He was one of the wealthiest men in Boston. He owned clothing stores, a number of clothing stores, and he also ran a gambling operation out of one of his establishments. So with the money from the gambling and a lot from the clothing business as well, he devoted all of that to the movement for abolition, the Underground Railroad.
So, Nicole, I'm going to turn to you now to talk more about the work that BECMA is doing and how this history sets the stage for it.
I'd love to learn about the history of these men in particular, and I definitely see a through line between what they did hundreds of years ago and what we're still doing today to help to create wealth and independence in the Black community in Massachusetts and across the nation. So at the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, or BECMA, our mission is to help to build Black wealth. The median net worth of Black Boston households, 2015 was only $8, compared to $250,000 by white Bostonians at the same time. And a big reason was the low level of home ownership, the low level of business ownership, and that persists to this day. Just to see these gentlemen hundreds of years ago really using enterprise and ownership and mutual support and aid. They didn't wait for things to get better to take action. They took action, and we today at BECMA really help our community from a business perspective to do the same thing. Because we know that Black business owners who have employees, they are 10 times wealthier than their peers. And as a small nonprofit organization, we feel that we can help to create more of these Black employer-owned firms. And there's this ripple effect towards advancing what we think are the pillars of economic and liberation and freedom.
A truly cooperative economics, which is exactly what Joyce was describing.
What I love about these stories here is that what these men were able to accomplish, nobody gave it to them. They created it. I'm not gonna guess that it was easy. I'm sure it was very difficult, but they were able to do that under, really tough circumstances. And I think that gives umbrage to our entrepreneurs of today to know that we can do it too. Yeah.
I believe 50% of the battle for them is knowing that they had to do it for a greater cause. If these people today are feeling the same way, that is a great part of the success story.
Boston is no stranger to the battle for equal education. Many remember the busing crisis of the 1970s, but long before that, there was Brown versus Board of Education, the 1954 landmark Supreme Court ruling that declared segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. Nearly 100 years before that, there was Phillips School and Abiel Smith School, which played central roles in the fight for public school desegregation. Dr. Joyce Hope Scott meets up with photographer Antonio Dominique to talk about that struggle for freedom.
Hey, Dr. Joyce, how are you?
Hi, Antonio. It's so nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Antonio, I was so pleased to hear that you had done some research already in this neighborhood, in this area. What drew you to that?
I am a part of an organization called the Loop Lab, and we were tasked to come up with a subject, and I naturally just thought about African history. Me being someone that is Black, I feel like it is very important to me, and I wanted to showcase that in the best way possible. So I brought my way to the African Meeting House.
What was that like then, finding this place and finding out about it? And
it was like just being there. I felt very in tune, very quiet, and the history there is just so important. You had so many leaders there, Frederick Douglass, just so many people, so much just happening there.
I'm so pleased that you're doing this project, and I can't wait to see the whole thing.
I saw that Boston desegregated schools in 1855. Why don't more people know about that?
First of all, not many people know that the school desegregation happened right here in Massachusetts in 1855. Because what most people are familiar with is the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision. We think about the school boycotts and bus boycotts and all of these things happening in the 1950s, but this all started here first. Education was the first battle, was the first liberatory struggle, the first civil rights or societal effort that people engaged in was around education. Until 1855, when Massachusetts becomes the first place to abolish a segregated education, first place to have integrated education.
So the Abiel Smith School was something people built for themselves, but also a part of segregation.
The thing that maybe many people may not know about the Abiel Smith School is that it was built as a result of a donation from a white businessman, but it was not up to par, and the parents were very, very upset about it. So William Cooper Nell, for example, one of the leaders, his thing was, it's a shame, it's just a disgrace that Massachusetts has this unequal education. If you support the idea of these segregated schools, then you are saying that it's okay, by sending your children here. So He organized a boycott. In 1855, when they did desegregate the Phillips School and other places like that, people were sort of sitting on pins and needles. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And they were just sort of poised for something to happen, but nothing happened. The Boston Herald wrote, oh, the colored children are so poised, they were so well-mannered, so well-dressed, et cetera, et cetera. The same thing with the Liberator, William Lloyd Garrison's paper. He talked about how extraordinarily valiant these young children were.
How did attorneys fit into this? Was there a legal system playing a role in this work?
Yeah, there were Black attorneys in Boston at that time. I mentioned Robert Morris, for example, and then there were others who were right here in Beacon Hill, because in order to take petitions to court, and they had to have an attorney. At the same time, Morris was in court arguing the Roberts case. He was also, a member of the Underground Railroad, an abolitionist. Yes, they were working within the system. Yes, they knew how to use the laws. They knew how to use the petition system. They knew how to find the characteristics of Massachusetts as a liberatory place, having been at the forefront of the Revolutionary War. And they could pull those cards all the time. So they did that. So they were always playing these dual roles. But I guess the thing is, remember that African American people lived up here first.
Yes.
They were here first. I mean, before it became this fantastically rich, opulent place that it's known to be today.
Well, it just goes to show how time and time again our influence impacts a neighborhood and a nation. Stay tuned as we continue our journey through the sites that made Boston's Black community instrumental in the American Revolution. That's it for this episode. I'm Paris Alston, and until next time, stay rooted, stay revolutionary, and as always, stay tuned.